Good afternoon. My name is Cole Halliburton, and I'm applying for the Assistant Director position in Athletics Development at Texas Tech University. I have a bachelor's in history, and I'm currently 4 classes from completing my graduate degree in organizational leadership. I've also served 17 years as an infantryman in the United States Army, and I have worked everywhere from recruiter to human resources manager to an instructor at West Point, the United States Military Academy. Now, I have a passion for sports and a passion for continued learning. And that's one of the reasons why I'm applying for this job. I would say one of the strengths that I possess is my ability to look at a problem objectively in order to solve it, and use common sense and analytics to figure out what the issue is, solve that problem, or if we fail, to learn from that failure so that we'll never make that mistake again. Dedication, serving in the United States Army, definitely have a certain sense of dedication to duty, loyalty, things of that nature. And then just my passion. I've said it once and I'll say it again. I have a passion for teaching young kids, teaching young people how to be just a better adults. I have a passion for leadership, and I have a passion for sports. One of my weaknesses is I am a little bit of an introvert. Now, like everybody, I know when to turn it on and when to turn it off. But sometimes I just kind of want to micromanage so as I don't have to interact with people. Now, that's a stated weakness, no doubt about it, but there's a lot of room for improvement, and I've realized that is a weakness of mine, and I've overcome it in many of occasions. A leadership philosophy that I've always lived by, 17 years in the Army, is definitely people business. People first, and the mission will follow. And what I mean by that is we can't complete any kind of mission, we can't complete any kind of task or any kind of job without the right manpower and people to do it. So if you treat your people right, and you treat your people in a manner that is consistent with the values that we show as Americans every day, then the mission will follow and people will want to work for you. That's one of the many leadership philosophies that I subscribe to. Another leadership philosophy would be a transformational approach. I like to say that anytime I interact with somebody, I want them to take away from that interaction something that they can learn, something that they can take back to their people within their organization, or employees or subordinates or peers, and they can teach them just simple things as far as how to affect somebody. And that one person that we just affected can spread the word to 2 to 3 people, and then those 2 to 3 people can spread the word to 2 to 3 other people. And so indirectly, I like to think that I've influenced many of people over the years. A vision that I have in this department is I would like for us to operate at a high level of competency. I want everybody to know their job like the back of their hand. We want to complete every task that we're given and complete it to the standard. And then I want to grow and develop the workforce. Anybody that works for me, I would like to think that I am developing them to take over my position one day. And that's the approach and the vision that I'll have if given this opportunity. I'd like to tell you a little bit about a difficult situation that I've encountered lately at work. Now, it doesn't necessarily have to do with the student athlete, but this situation has to do with society in general, and especially at universities and campuses across America. And that it has to do with sexual harassment and sexual innuendos. And I'll give you an example. So just like in any top-level organization, there's going to be policies against sexual harassment and sexual innuendos, sexual assault, and those people within those organizations are expected to follow that policy. And the Army has the same thing. And recently, well, a little bit of background first. So I'm an infantryman, and so for 17 years, give or take a few few years that I've worked at West Point in recruiting, I've worked around male employees, male soldiers. And there is, whether we like it or not, there is such thing as what I would characterize as locker room talk. And that's the exact thing that we're trying to get away from with these sexual harassment policies in the Army, is we are trying to make it known and make it explicit that these sexual innuendos and this locker room talk will not be tolerated, because those things could, and I stress could, lead to they could lead to sexual harassment, and then of course that could lead to sexual assault. So if we eliminate it at its source, that's the whole point behind some of these policies. And recently, during a meeting where we were, it was all males, and it was mostly peers and a couple of leaders within my organization, and there was a joke, a sexual innuendo, sexual type joke about a female that actually works real close to us within our office. And at that point, you're kind of given a gut check of reality, and you're kind of given the opportunity. Do you go along with that kind of locker room talk and banter, or does it bother you that much that you have to speak up and say something? And you can even quote and cite the policy if you want to. But what you're risking is honestly, you're risking being ostracized by your peers and by your group for calling them out on something that they think is okay to talk about with the guys, for example. So recently, I did not call him out. I will admit I did not call this individual out in the meeting. I thought it was inappropriate, just like what he was doing, but I thought it was inappropriate because I wanted to keep the meeting going. But afterwards, I pulled this individual to the side, and again, he was my peer in the United States Army, a soldier, and I pulled him aside and I told him about the policy, and I told him I thought that was wrong. At first, he pushed back on me a little bit, and at the end of the day, though, he understood exactly where I was coming from, and that's the kind of personal courage and integrity that I can bring to this job as well. If given the opportunity to work as the Assistant Director for Athletics Development, I would have a 90-day plan or a 90-day approach. And during that approach, what I would do is I would listen, and I would continue to learn. I would learn from the employees. I would learn from my boss. And I wouldn't be so naive as to think that I couldn't learn something from anybody and everybody, down to the student athlete, to the prospect. From the prospect all the way up to the athletic director. I can learn something, and I would take that approach, and then I would identify any kind of problems or new amendments or implementations to the policy, and I would recommend those, and we would make some changes if need be. You should hire me for your organization because bottom line is I'm a game changer. I have spent 17 years in various leadership positions. Combine that with my passion for sports and learning, and I'm dangerous. My expertise is leadership, my passion is sports, and my ambition is continued education. I would be a great asset to your organization, and together I know that we will continue the great traditions that Red Raider Nation has at Texas Tech University. Thank you very much. Take care.